Hello everyone. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're looking after yourselves. Welcome to another episode of Hustle Chronicles. Oh my days.
Okay.
Don't be ill. We dive into amazing subjects with amazing business owners and freelancers. We get to learn more about the world of entrepreneurship and creativity with the cool businesses, founders that get on this podcast. We're actually, funny enough, later today, won't be when this episode is released, because obviously 2 episodes on Monday is a lot, but we will be bringing back our first guest, because as you guys know, we're bringing people back on 6 months to 12 months after the episode there. So we'll have our first guest. I'll keep that as a surprise for when the episode airs. But we're going to talk about an amazing business today. We've got one of the co-founders of this amazing business. They're a family business, and as you know, we love seeing families work together to create incredible things. As you guys know, I don't like doing introductions. I think it's best for us to hear from these amazing people themselves. So I'm going to hand over to our great guest speaker today. İlayda, could we know a bit more about you and what you do?
Thanks, Jeffrey. The intro was super fun. So, it wasn't about me, but it was super fun. So my name is İlayda, and I am the founder of Exhibits, which is the only comprehensive guide to all of London's exhibitions. And we launched the app about 4 months ago now, which is super fantastic. And I personally am really, really happy and proud about that because it took me 4 years to build the app from scratch by myself. So that was like kind of win for me personally and also for the business. And we're just trying to make exhibitions more accessible. There are so many cool things going on which involve the hard work of so many other people. So it would be a shame if you miss them. And well, what can I say that you never miss an exhibition again?
No.
Yeah.
We're not ending the episode there.
That's it.
Well, I think you're right. Every business needs a good tagline. That's an incredible tagline. We're going to dive right into the first question. So you have a lot of diverse passions. You know, we even funnily enough mentioned that this. I completely forgot. So basically, the room we're recording in is a hexagon.
It's a hexagon.
And then I was just like, oh yeah, it's cool, that's cool. And I realized, obviously, one of your passions is maths.
Yeah.
So it's like, when I was looking at the question, I was like, oh damn, that's
That makes sense.
I was just like, it makes sense. But yeah, what inspired you to combine all your passions? Because you're also passionate, you're an artist.
Yep.
And obviously you do coding as well as maths.
Yeah.
So with all three of these areas, what inspired you to combine all these passions in creating exhibits? And how do you navigate building an app from scratch? Because as you mentioned, you're a self-taught coder.
Yeah.
And I have never done code, but when I see people talking about it, I'm like, it is ultimately another language to me.
Well, yeah.
So, could we know a bit more about what inspired you to combine your passion, but then also how did you find navigating being a self-taught coder?
Yeah, okay, fine. Okay, so passions first, coding next. Okay, but because you.
Nah,
Oh my God. So, why don't you know of Kumon? Have you ever heard of Kumon? So Kumon is this like after-school Japanese program where you basically do like 1+1 at the very beginning, and then you go step 1+2, and it gets a bit spicy. But then, so as a result of doing that, I was like ahead of my school level of maths. At primary school and secondary school, my first job was actually teaching my friends GCSE maths whilst we were doing GCSE maths. So I already did that like a little while before. So that's kind of how I got into maths. It wasn't just like, wow, I'm so passionate. It was because I did it every day. And I was good at it. And you know, when you're a kid, it's like, you like the stuff that you're good at. So yeah, I did end up doing maths at uni. But then I'd always do drawings in my bedroom. And I was just like a bedroom hobby artist. I wouldn't even call myself an artist. I just did some art from time to time. And then as a kid, when you're a teenager and they're asking you, what do you want to be when you grow up? I said, okay, well, math's not. That seems pretty cool. I like both things. It would probably make me a lot of money. It sounds great. And I also watch grand designs. I was like, architecture. It's only architecture. It wasn't. What else did I say? We also watched a lot of Top Gear. I was like, I'm going to be designing the slickest Aston Martins you guys have ever seen. It wasn't that. I didn't know what it was. And I was like, you know what? I don't know. But at the very least, let me do maths at uni, which will give me a good baseline. And hopefully, then I can go and do a job that'll give me loads of money. That also hasn't happened yet. Yeah, the money's coming.
It's coming.
Inshallah. But that's the math side, and the art side, just kept it going basically. Predominantly, like I design tattoos and I paint murals when time allows. Because obviously, I'm coding really, I'm glued to my laptop. But the first job I ever did was at an app company, and they were doing like workplace messaging. And yeah, they kind of said, "Do you want to learn to code?" I said, "Yeah, this feels like a question." I said, "I should say yes." You know? So I said yes, and I just wasn't really learning the work that well there because I was under the wing of a developer who, was a man developer and also a narcissist. And so it wasn't really about my learning; it was about him telling me all the things he knew. And like I said, like I started tutoring when I was 14. I also did a TEFL qualification when I was 18 because I taught English in Spain for a year, like just a little tidbit. But I know what good teaching looks like, but I also really love learning, essentially. Like, learning is so cool because you just get to know more facts. Why would I it's great, you know, like, or it's a skill-based thing that you learn and you get to like do something cool with it. So anyway, I wasn't learning well at this place. So I used all my savings, I saved up and I did a coding boot camp. So although, yes, I am self-taught, this boot camp came about lockdown time. So my lockdown was pretty fruitful, not gonna lie. And yeah, it was a web development course called Wagon, and it was a 3-month intensive. And yeah, on that program, the last 2 weeks, I said, okay, well, you have the opportunity to like pitch an idea and build the first website for it. Okay, yeah, cool, that's fine. I was just gonna sit there and twiddle my thumbs and wait for a cool idea to float on by. But yeah, I'll do that project. And then I think we spoke about it briefly before, but like right at the back of my head here, I used to have an afro, so now I can point to the back of my head, you know what I'm talking about. But right at the back of my head, which is where traditionally divine inspiration tends to flow. Yeah, a little voice inside saying, you know, what about exhibitions? What about museums? I sat there and I thought about it for a little while. I said, yeah, well, I keep missing them, number one. So maybe we could just put a guide together, which is like the one website you'd ever need to go to find out all the exhibitions. And then you get to just go to the ones that you like instead of having to go to Time Out and like Googling things and like Instagram. And I'm not on social media really, so I'm kind of like an in real life gal. And because I didn't have social media, I kept missing all the cool exhibitions. But even when you have social media, you're still missing all the cool exhibitions. I was like, yeah, this can't run. So, yeah, at that moment in the bootcamp, the catalyst was, if you look up, there's an exhibition called The Squash, and it was on the Tate Britain in 2018. And it was like this tiled floor, almost looked like a game. And there was this creature who had like a button-up squash style helmet on. And essentially, the thing they were doing is like prancing around in space. Like one day you go and they're like having a nap. The next day you go, they're like dancing, following you around or something cool. And I was like, yeah, this seems like really fun. This is right up my street. And I missed it. Hey, I missed it. And then I Googled it. And it turns out the artist he put on was a black woman. Oh my God. Listen, I've never really stopped being mad about it. Anthony Hamilton, I'd love to meet you someday. But listen, I was so vexed that essentially the anger of missing a really cool exhibition I would love to go to came up in the boot camp. And I was like, do you know what? Yeah, come on, this can't run. And here we are 4 years later, basically. So that takes me into the learning to code bit. So that was the web development stuff. We had a really basic website. It was super cool. And a lot of people came up to me and they were like, yeah, I can't believe this doesn't exist already. And I was like, yeah, same. So if you see a gap, I guess you have to kind of fill it yourself. And so that's what I did. And then that summer, I learned to go for mobile. And I actually have the first app that I ever built, which I'm gonna bother to show you because I feel like this is like origin story stuff. This is what we're all about. Right. Check this out. Doesn't need an internet connection. Okay, here it is. And it's called I'm a Cat. I'll send you a picture of this. You can go to That's it. You can click around, nothing happens. It's 2 pictures of cats.
Okay, I'll also put it.
Yeah,
I can also put it
so
up
good.
on the camera as well, so you can see it.
It says I'm a cat, and that's that.
Okay. Also, what are you doing? I'm gonna put my laptop on.
Yeah.
I didn't know. But
yeah, do your thing. So that was my first app that I ever built, and I keep it on my phone to look at from time to time to remind myself of how far I've come and how funny that is still to me. And yeah, like I started with the basic layout. I knew what I wanted. I was like, we just need to show exhibitions to people. And I'm really good at putting myself in other people's shoes which I feel like typically most developers don't do. But I also think it's because it's a very homogeneous group of people who are developers, which is white men of a certain age. They are never taught or encouraged to do the putting yourself in another person's shoes thing. So the tech that we use, sometimes it's built for them, basically. And so we didn't want that to be the case. We categorize all our exhibitions to make them easier for everyone who's interested to find them. So, for example, we're Nigerian, and we have a Nigeria category because from time to time an exhibition will come up that's about Nigeria or Nigerian culture. There's one about the colonial at the moment. That's going to end soon. Probably not going to be able to go and see it, but it's there. I know about it. And if you are from Nigeria and you see that, you're more likely to click it than someone who's, for example, from like Nepal, maybe. But if you're from Nepal and you want to find Nepalese stuff, that's there too. Like, there's loads of stuff going on, and like obviously London is just the most incredible city ever for diversity, and there's so much going on. People are missing not only all their old cultural stuff, but anything that they're interested in. Also, our interests seem to overlap quite closely in some ways, but I'm sure there are things that you like that I don't. So, in making something that's useful for everyone, the best way that we decided to do was, to just make it categorized. I feel like, again, the information's out there, but it just took a woman to organize it and put it together nicely. So that's what we're doing,
That's really incredible. And I think what's really cool about we mentioned there, like, a few things. The one, subtly mentioning that, like, you're doing all this stuff, like, even before you've done the app, like, you already got multi-hyphenates before that. But yeah, I think it's really cool that you mentioned that, like, like you just said there, like, it's one, like, businesses or like solutions come from people see an issue, like a gap in the market, and want to like put something in there. It's just like you said, like, I've missed exhibitions or like I've missed events and stuff. And it's like, why isn't there an app that like accumulates like all these exhibitions?
Yeah.
Like, it, like you said, like, it just naturally makes sense.
Yeah.
But I think also, as you mentioned, like it's also that like it's that being willing to learn. And I think, like you said, like you had a business, like your business idea came through doing coding, but you also were passionate about learning about coding.
Yeah.
And like you said, like you bootstrapped, you saved up to do this course, and it's just like, even if the business idea wasn't there, you were very passionate about coding. You're just like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go ahead and do it. And I think that's like a key thing to mention, because sometimes people feel like they can't like do that. Like if they want to do something, it's like, I need to like wait until like, I don't know, I've got more time, or like until my schedule's freer, or until, I don't know, like the stars align. Yeah. It's just like, no, sometimes you got to like, if you want to do something and you got the time to do it, like now's the time to just go and do it. And
one thing I will say is that the coding bootcamp that I did, coding is a language and human beings can learn to speak languages. A lot of English speakers don't tend to learn other languages, but everyone else has to learn English. So, no, but what I wanted to say was that on the course, we had people from such a wide range of disciplines. Like one person was like a menswear fashion designer, another person was a teacher, another person was like a yoga instructor, one person was like a fireman, and like they all came to learn to code because it's something that you can do. And much like anything, the more diversity there is in thinking, the better the product will be. Because again, you've like thought about the edge cases, which are actually probably different from your own lived reality. So like the way we use that might be slightly different, but if one person is building it just for you, then the way I want to use it is kind of like, it's not even considered. And so the more, like the different types of people that get into coding, the better it is. And the reason I think that's so important is because we live in a technology world at the moment, right? Like our banking is tech, our like, school curriculums are tech. Like tech is such a big part of our lives, and I feel like people just consume the tech products most of the time with little regard to who built them, and like that's an issue. If a shoemaker only ever made shoes that fit certain type of feet, you notice it, right? But chances are the shoemaker has that type of feet, because we do what we know personally, and because we're living in our own bodies the whole time, I mean, you forget that other people have different lived experiences. So yeah, one of the reasons that we're so happy about the app, and I say we, I'm talking about me and my sister, so shout out to you, Laura, she keeps on the straight and narrow, is that we deserve to have tech made by Black women, you know? And I just think Black women are the best, but in general, I also think women are the best. And I'm a big fan of all human beings. Like, let's put it out there. I've got a lot of love for you, Jeffrey. But, you know, again, it's the diversity thing. And I'm really, really interested to see how a lot of the feedback that we got from the app, specifically, for example, is like, oh, this, like, it feels really good to use. Like, well, it feels good, right? And I've never opened up my banking app and said, it feels good. So we care a lot about what we do. I also meditate like every day. As Jeffrey was saying, I can't just sit here like this. And if I'm going to use this app, it has to not feel clunky. It has to not feel like it's got whistles and bells, like vying for my attention the whole time. Because I just don't think it needs to do that. But the Facebooks, the WhatsApps, the TikToks, you know, everything, the Uber Eats and everything, yo, I got one of those things on my phone, which is like, it tells you how many notifications, like how much screen time you've got. And all this. I was horrified. I'm very much an analog kind of person, despite the fact I thought that. And yeah, maybe because I'm in it, I don't know, like I just tend to like reading books. Not doing screen stuff. I think it also comes because I spent so long looking at a screen, like 4 years of using my laptop is enough. But what was I going to say? Oh yeah, I wanted it to feel meditative. It doesn't need to be. Tech doesn't need to be invasive to be useful, and tech also doesn't need to be ugly to be functional. Those are the two things that I really care about. And so yeah, the app is designed with like Swiss style graphic design specifically because if you look it up, like Pinterest is full of it and stuff like that. But if you flip through a catalog and it's from the 50s and it's just Helvetica, there's nothing fancy about it, but it's so well laid out and I think it ages so gracefully. And I thought, if I'm really going to spend this much time, blood, sweat, tears in this app, like I don't want to look back at it in 5 years and be like, oh, it needs to do it, I need to redo it. No, I want it to age gracefully. And so, yeah. And another reason that we use that, though, the last point was that tech is often not built for older people. And older people struggle with tech a lot because it's just not part of their generation. And I completely get it. Or I can empathize because I don't get it. But we built the app. It's so simple in its design and in the way that you use it so that older people can also go to exhibitions and stuff because they also make up actually a bigger proportion of people who are going because they've got so much time in the day. They tend to go, but yeah, so we don't want to leave them out either.
Yeah, definitely. And I think like one key thing you mentioned there is like not even just with apps, but like sometimes with stuff, there's a lot of like fluff.
Yeah.
And it's just
I hate fluff.
I don't need it. I don't need it.
Well, what is it that you do? Like, why is this useful for me? Just let's stop. And you know, I'm not going to lie to you. I feel like there's a lot of fluff in the art world. It's another thing that we do now that the app is out and we've got a website coming soon is we take people on like community trips to exhibitions. Because like I said, we want to do stuff in real life. And I think one of the reasons that people often don't go to art exhibitions in particular is because they're not an artist. They're looking at something on the wall and I don't know what to say. If someone asks me what I'm like, I don't have it. Oh, the colours, you know. You can like something because it's green. You know, so there's a lot of jargon in the art world. There's a lot of fluff. And we kind of want to just take that away and just leave whatever it is that lets you have the most fun. So, for example, one of the things that again, shout out to my friend Jollof, because together we're Jollof and Spice. We were social section street dance at uni and, you know, please like that. But we'd go to the National Gallery and we'd go to like all these old-timey paintings and we'd be like, okay, who am I? And there's some angel in the painting like going like this and she's like, okay, you're that person. I'm like, yeah. But it goes so silly and she's like, who am I? And she's a book. We're in our 20s, man. Like we can have fun, you know. And I feel like I definitely want to encourage people in the extreme that just go and do whatever is fun for you. Otherwise, why are you doing it? Yeah.
I'm gonna go on to the next question, which might be a bit more of a difficult one.
Yeah.
It's all about challenges.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned in your bio that you were juggling 2 jobs while building the app. So we want to know, what challenges did you face while doing that? Because I think for a lot of founders, they won't necessarily from the get-go be like full-time on their business.
Yeah.
Like I guess, like I'm not saying like no founders But like, it is very, like, you'll be managing other stuff.
Absolutely.
So the first question is, what challenges did you face? Second one is, what kept you motivated throughout that 4-year journey? Because, I've joked about it on here many a times. There are many times when I've just been like, you know what? I could have a chill day. Like, I wasn't doing it on mic. I could just be chilling at home, relaxing. But I'm not. So what kept you motivated throughout that 4-year period as well?
Okay, yeah. The first question was, what were the challenges of juggling?
2 jobs.
Yeah, 2 jobs. Cool. Well, we say it 2 jobs. Really, I live at home. So on top of a full-time working job, I'm a sister. At the time, I had a partner. And it was like, wow, there's really so much. And the way I really did it, because I went through, so hindsight, golden. But at the time, I was like, yeah, if I don't do this, this thing's not getting built. That I was like, this is such a great idea. I can really see myself dedicate my life to this idea. But if I don't do it, we're done. I don't mind paying someone to make it. Even I don't even think like paying someone to make it was an option for me because I didn't even really consider it till really much later on. And to that note, I don't know if anyone knows what the back end of an app is or a website. It's all the database stuff. But because I'm a mathematician and an artist, I really like the front end stuff, which is like the way it looks and like the buttons that you click and that kind of stuff. I had to change the back end of exhibits 7 times. Every time, you can't even just like delete a file and it's gone. You have to unplug every single place where you've used it across the whole project, and then obviously nothing works because there's no data. And then you got to figure out how to connect the next thing. You go back to all those places we deleted it. You try to put the new thing in 7 times. Those are dark days. I'm not gonna lie to you. It was such dark days. But the reason they were dark is because I found it challenging, right? So that's the main takeaway. That if you've got something that you're working on, there's going to be bits of it that you're not very good at, and that's cool. You've got to somehow find a way to move through that so that you can get the finished thing or the milestone that you want to reach. I also am a really big believer of setting small milestones because, I wanted the app to be out, but was that it? Not really. What I really love is to make sure that it feels good when people use it, like people are actually using it. We've got good data on there. There are so many different things that I wanted to make sure were good. But I didn't start by doing all of them. So I said, okay, one thing at a time. All right, when you open the app, maybe you should see like a picture of an exhibition. Let's start there. So that is where I started. But the best tip that I have is I got really overwhelmed by how much there was to do, especially on the days where I had to, rip out the back end. And it didn't feel good. But I can do my best work. I'm more used to exhibits and also anyone in my life if I feel good. So I started doing and prioritizing, which kind of sounds counterintuitive, but I started taking care of myself. And sometimes that meant not coding that day. And instead of being like, okay, well, I've got to open my laptop, do something, but I'm already miserable and I'm a bit burnt out, my eyes hurt from like already 8 hours on the screen for my job. Or I just listen to a podcast instead, or I just go for a walk, or I'd be like, you know what? I'm going to take such an intentional break that by the time I come back to do this again, maybe tomorrow, maybe the day after, it doesn't matter. I'm going to be ready because I'm going to be rested. That changed the game for me, really. It was that. And also, I decided that even if it was 2 or 3 minutes, I was going to work on exhibit that day. Prior to this, I said to myself, right, if I don't get like the next thing done, if I don't get that button fixed, I'm not done it. All I'm really doing to myself is putting pressure on myself. No one else is doing it. It's just me. And so I said, I'm not going to scrap that. It's not working for me. It's just that making me feel just tension in my chest and I'm stressed all the time or whatever. So that's no good. So I put a checklist in my phone. If you check my calendar, every single day it says exhibits. And every single day, if I do one thing towards exhibits, tick it off. That could be going through the app and making sure that everything's good. Tick off. Right? And so what I started to do is I started to build for myself a culture of anything you do, no matter how small, is helpful. That changed the game. After that, I was like, And the more you do it, so the reason I ticked it off is like, I kind of like ticking these things off. Even if it's tiny, I'm going to do that. And I started off by saying, like, right, 5 minutes, just open the code, just refresh yourself, whatever was the problem that you were having, just refresh it. You don't even have to fix it, just close the code again. But obviously when I'm there, I'm like, okay, let me try this thing. Let me try this thing. before I know it, the 5 minutes has turned into 10, 15, 20. And then after a few days of getting into like that, I'm spending hours and hours and hours. I'm up all night, doing this thing. And the progress is moving. And I'd also have to say that also applies to the art that I do. I start small. I'm determined to do like a little bit at a time. Before you know it, there's like really intricate stuff going on. Like that's how murals are. Because I paint indoor murals. Love to get to graffiti, but not there yet because I haven't had time. But you're going to start with like a small corner. I'm going to paint that little corner. And next time I'm going to paint the corner next to it, or the corner over there, like whatever. I'm going to take a break. And But every time I do my best. So I don't have to come back and know that I've half-heartedly done. I don't do anything in-house, essentially. So that was that. The second question that you asked was about what motivated me. Yeah. Do you know what? It was fun. And it still is, because this is something that I had never done before. I was like, yeah, you know what? It feels really good to know that, okay, today all I want to do is like add this extra thing. Maybe I think because my goals were smaller, like my daily goals were more task-based. And when you click this page, it should take you here. Okay, navigation doesn't work. Cool. Let me try and figure it out, And keeping my goals small. It's just such a joy to watch a project come together. I think same with in a similar way, it's the same with a piece of artwork. So you have a blank page and then you fill it up. Slowly but surely you fill it up, and it's not hard. If I'm honest. Also, what kept me motivated is through those 4 years, even though I was mostly focused on the code, I thought a lot about the business. I thought a lot about what I want it to be. I thought about the people that I wanted to help with it. I thought about the lifestyle, mainly of the math lifestyle, that I could have if I was an entrepreneur. So I'm dreaming of working less, living more, for example. At the moment, that's not necessarily the case. But I did just get back from a 2-week holiday. Like I gave myself that, So I guess it's kind of working. And it was also for me an exercise in self-love, I think, and speaking to myself kindly. I've got very, very big cheerleader energy for everyone I meet. I'm just like, you are the best person ever. I'm so glad we met, Likewise for you. Like, we just got on so well last time, and I'm always championing other people because, God gave me a lot of energy and that's why I'm going to use it. But I now use that for myself a lot. I was like, oh my gosh, you've done this. Yeah, go you. You're so great. And and in doing so, it's such a wonderful positive feedback loop that I wanted to do more stuff for myself. And slowly but surely that kind of came together. And I'm very grateful. And I would always say to myself that even if I was to die tomorrow, for example, this is like 2 years ago, there's still in the thick of, back end stuff. I was like, even if I was going to die tomorrow, I don't regret any of it. I would still have spent my time doing this because most of the time it's fun. It's a challenge. I'm learning every day. And don't get me wrong, learning is hard. And it sometimes isn't like super fun learning every day. But when you're learning for yourself, you're just adding like bonus points to yourself. Like, it's such a wonderful thing. So yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
I can honestly wax lyrical for hours. So hopefully I like to keep it. Yeah.
Well, that's perfect. I think a few things I want to highlight is, I think like you mentioned, being like living at home puts you in such a unique position because you are allowed to like experiment and like test. So like even myself, like I work from home because I work from home because I live at home.
Yeah.
I am able to like work part time and do pick up the mic. Whereas like when I was working full time, I was just like burning out because it's just hard.
Yeah, it is.
I think the second thing that you mentioned, which is really important, was this idea of rest. And I wish fingers crossed, one day either I'll be on his podcast or I'll bring him on here. But Trevor Nutter is like big fan of this. He's got a podcast called What Now? And I think towards the end of last year, they released an episode where it was himself and like 2 people he does a podcast with. And it was like, if you were in charge of the world and you could implement one law to like, everyone has to follow it, what would that be? And I think Trevor was just like, no social media for people, it was like under the age of 18 maybe, or until they're 18. The other person I've got her name on this team. She was saying it should be like basically schools are a lottery. So there's basically, you still have private schools, you still have public schools, but it's like anyone, like, because anyone, whether rich or poor, can basically go to any type of school, it should mean that parents should be more involved in like ensuring the schools are good. And then the last one was, so one of the people on this team is Jewish, and he said growing up, people don't know about Judaism, they have the Sabbath, they also have in Christianity, but in Judaism, it's followed a bit differently. So it's very much, it's more just like, you can't work from, I think it's sundown Friday to sundown Saturday.
Yeah.
And people were saying like, so he was saying, growing up, like no tech, no work of any kind, you can't cook, if you need stuff turned on and off, like he said, we have to ask our neighbors to do it. And he was saying just that time to like be with people, sit down, just rest was really good.
Yeah.
And I think, well, they basically all had to vote. The only one that got voted and like everyone, or most people agreed on, was the Sabbath one.
Right, yeah.
There was some like arguments on like everyone's plans, but I recommend people to watch it. It was a funny episode.
Yeah.
But like the reason why I mentioned that's really important to what you say is I think the biggest thing that that's why I kind of like this podcast series. Like, I like all the podcast series before people like click this up and say hate everything else. But I like this podcast series because it's like yes, we interview like founders, we interview freelancers, but I never want people to feel like, oh, like just because you see like everyone saying, oh, if you want to start a business, you need to hustle like 24/7. The clock's got to keep rolling.
Hustle culture is good, I swear. Like,
I'm just like, we're not built for that. We're literally not.
We're really not.
And
we're really, really not.
It's just like, to me, it's just like, I don't know. It's just like you like someone in my workplace said something interesting because they also have their own business and they were just like, I don't want to like keep working so hard that like you said, like one day they pass away and the business just like goes because they've been pushing themselves so hard, not resting, not giving themselves that grace, and it's just like, oh well, the business isn't going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
And I think, like, basically linking that to what the person said, as well as what you were saying, is it's just like, well, that's one thing that I'm taking, especially more so like now, because I think even there was one point last year where like, I was like burning out on the regular because I'd like be doing like loads of different things every day, and like it was like you said, like I'd come back from work and be like, cool, I'm editing a video, I'm sending emails and stuff like this, or all of this. And I think like there was one point my dad was just like, look, man, like if God can even rest on the seventh day, like come on, like you can do that. And like even so I use there's this Bible app called YouVersion. They have like Bible plans you can do. Like one that they have there was like was actually also by this organization, this Jewish organization, talk about like a Christian organization, but talk about like Jewish practices. And they said like one thing they proposed on the January 1st was just like, look, like if you didn't work for like 24 hours, what would that look like? Like in all reality, like try it. And I was just like, what would it look like? And I was like, it's not like pick up the lights and like burn in like 24 hours.
Not like all your hard work's just going to evaporate.
Exactly.
It's going to be a pause for like 24 hours.
Yeah. And I feel like that's something that I'm trying to take on more as well. It's just like realizing that pause.
Yeah.
And then finally, I think like you said, like I definitely, it's very funny how very similar we are. I definitely agree with you. Like championing others, like being a cheerleader, like I love doing that. I love putting people in spaces where they can connect and grow and all of this. But I think definitely like I know internally I'm not always the best at that. And I think like you said, like one thing I've been doing this year is I saw someone on Instagram talk about it, just having like a jar that I put like one good thing that happened every day. And it's like it doesn't have to be like mic related, it doesn't need to be massive, it doesn't need to be like super small. It's just one good thing that I'm like, this is something I'm proud of. Yeah. So like yesterday, I don't know if I got, well, you should hopefully have some gamers because I've got a gaming podcast, check it out. But yeah, I was just like gaming yesterday, and like for the longest time, there's this game called Marvel Rivals. I won't like go into too much detail so we can go back on track. But like with that game, I was like, I want to be MVP. I was like generally for the longest time, I was just like, it's coming. I was like, I just want this. And then I'm like set for life. It doesn't matter if I'm not in their like top 50 players worldwide. I was like, I just need to get MVP one match.
One time. And
I'm just like, I'm good. Yeah. And it happened yesterday. And what I was saying when it happened, I was just like, thank you. But I was just generally when it happened, that's how you know, like, I was not expecting it. Because I was just like, when it happens, I'll record it, I'll get photos. And I was like, just playing. And then I saw it and I was like, that looks like me. That's That's my gamer tag. I was like, quickly call it. But yeah, literally, like you said, like, it's just like those small things and like being grateful. Like you said, like, even if I just send off like 3 emails today to pick up the mic, or like at work, I don't know, maybe I sit down with a colleague, have a good conversation, like small stuff like that. I'm being proud of that.
So grateful, literally every second of my life, essentially. And that's, I feel like, what turned the tide. So you can probably tell, actually who's at home, I think it's mine the whole time. I'm a very happy person. And it's because I'm grateful for everything. Like yesterday, my sister's room is like right by the bathroom. And I was taking off like my makeup. And I was like, wow, I'm so glad we have running water. And then there was a pause of like 30 seconds. She was like, what? She's like already in bed. She's like, wait, what? And I was like, because I took my makeup with a toner, but it left like a sticky residue or whatever. It's also like 11 o'clock at night, trying to get to bed. And I was like, imagine if to make my skin feel good, I'd have to go to the well in the middle of the night to wash my face with water that might not even be super clean or whatever. I said, do you know how much of a faff that would be? Wow. But the time just open up the tap and there's water. In fact, I turn it to hot, there's hot water. Miracles. You know? And because I feel like, also, I think sometimes people, I think hippies get a bad name, right? I think hippies are just happy people, okay? But I wasn't always like that, is what I'm trying to say. And I've incorporated gratitude into my life, and also like so has my family. And living at home is such a privilege because and such a blessing, because my family is me, my sister, mum, and dad. And everyone's just helped to make exhibits what it is. Like we have, I think, about 450 venues on our app, which is way more than everyone else. But my dad collected about 400 of them, right? Like, so he used to like work in tech, and I was like, Dad, here's a prompt, here's a list, get to work. And he was like, yeah, all right, let's go. It took him like, I don't know, like 6 months. But that was something that he did that helped us out because it took something off my plate. I also feel like for young entrepreneurs and founders and anyone else who's involved, bring people in that you trust and delegate. Let the people do what they're good at doing. You know, so whenever we're working with anyone new and I'm like, okay, this is what needs to be done, but just so that I know, what is it that you'd love to be doing, right? Because if there's a chance for us to work together in a way that you get to do something that you really enjoy, maybe it's writing. That's not necessarily I'm pretty good with my words for a mathematician, but for some people wouldn't be like copywriters. I'm like, we're going to need that in time. So noted, you know, but that's not what they're doing right now. So don't forget to ask people what they like, you know. But yeah, so yeah, being grateful is massive. And in fact, every day, my dad leads it, similar to prayer. I think prayer and meditation, I think there's 2 sides of the same coin. And we ask all our guides and angels and the universe at large just gift us something beautiful today. And then before we go to bed, we say thank you for all the great things that happened that day. And before you know it, the list just gets longer and longer each evening. And that's a nice life, man. That's a good life. Yeah. So being grateful again, very, very grateful.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
We're going to go on to the next question, which is about the uniqueness of your app.
Yeah.
So it's a unique platform that Exhibits is a unique platform that is so great for connecting people with all the exhibitions that take place across London, both, like you said, like big scale, smaller scale, like especially like on a completely tangent, but smaller ones are the ones that always like, you're just like, this happened?
Yeah. Every time.
You see people, yeah, this is cool. Like,
okay, you would have loved it.
You didn't want to tell me?
You didn't tell me? You didn't pick up the phone and tell me? I was calling each other these days. That's why. Yeah.
So how do you see it transforming the way communities engage with art and culture in London?
Yeah. Well, to begin with, by starting would be good, you know. I think there are loads of people who, and it's actually part of like what we're doing at the moment. So, for example, I think the best way to explain is a recent trip that we ran to the Saatchi Gallery. Wait, I have a thing which maybe even better illustrates what we do. So the community trips that we run, we take people to exhibitions that align with already what they do and what their interests are. But here are 2 that. So this is our first community trip, and this is the one that we ran on Saturday. And we partnered with a community called Cine Labs, and they are predominantly Black people, but also they are a film photography like community, helping people get into film. Yeah, nice. Woo! And so my sister made those, which is super cool. And yeah, it was a black photography exhibition. So we got a group of, it was also a paid black photography exhibition. But we managed to take a group of like 20 people for free because we were the facilitators. And we were like, this is our community thing, this is our social outreach. And yes, we went, and it was basically like a school trip for adults. And, like we brought this, we're Turkish, I brought it, the food on the table. So we bought snacks and everyone just got a chance to mingle, like make new friends. And and as a result, I'd love to like try out film photography, and I'm going to go on one of their photo walks. But like going to something in real life that you're interested in is a beautiful thing to do. It's also so good for you. Like I think people often don't realize how great it is to do something that brings you joy, because we're not encouraged to do it in society at large. Like you turn on the telly and it's just doom and gloom from the news. And not to say it's not important to know what's going on, but there's never been a time in human history when we've had to know this much bad stuff was happening
all the time. And that's on top of a job that you might not even like feel like you're thriving in, or maybe your relationships are difficult, or you want new friends, or so the first thing that we're doing is we're taking people to exhibitions in real life and partnering with communities. So for example, the Barbican have a contemporary Indian drawing exhibition. So we want to partner with any Indian community organizations that we have, and let's take some Indian people to an Indian organization, an Indian exhibition. And for every single thing you can think of, photography lovers to photographer, like sculpture lovers to a sculpture exhibition to begin with. Then I think people will see through us and me being a cheerleader for just having fun as an adult, how much fun you can have. And hopefully we'll inspire people to maybe check out exhibitions when we're not there. We hope they keep coming to our stuff, but if people can go out to an exhibition either on their own or with their own friends, that's like a pebble in the pond ripple effect or positivity. Just having a good time, and having a good time these days feels like activism because the world seems to not be, rooting for that. So that's the main thing that we want to do. And the reason we categorize everything is because when you go to an exhibition and you're face to face with something that you genuinely are interested in, you're present. You're not thinking about the work, the job, the kids. You're not thinking about all the edits that you have to make. And if this person's going to cancel, you're not. You're just looking at something because it's just like, that's actually so cool. And life happens in the present moment. Like I'm a really, really big believer about it. That's why I think like prayer is so important. Meditation is so important, because even when you're meditating, even when I'm meditating, sometimes I'm like, I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to do this. And the best moments of my life happen when I'm here right now. So I'm very much present right now with you. Like I'm not thinking about anything else. And that's why I'm having such a good time, aside from the fact that this is a wonderful time. Do you know what I mean? And, a lot of people struggle with mental health issues. Our mom is a mental health social worker, or was, because you convinced her to retire. So, we're moving in the right direction. But as a result, my sister and I didn't realize that we have so many coping mechanisms built in. And we look at our friends and we look at everyone around us and we're like, a lot of my friends are on medication for mental health issues, and that's not good. That's not a good thing. It's not something we want to encourage. We want to encourage people to be mentally well, physically well, So being present for people who are very anxious, chances are they're thinking about the future, which, if I'm honest, is like your mind is giving you movies about what could happen. And normally it's the worst case scenario, which is, unhelpful. Or people who suffer from depression, often they're still reliving whatever was really difficult in their past. And the present moment is the only time that you can escape both of those things, if I'm honest. And so, Exhibits' main MO from a spiritual point of view is to encourage people to be present more. And the best way to do that, if you're going to bring it to the masses, which I feel like I've been so gifted with a sparkling energy, which I've grown over time. When I was 14, I decided to be positive. I'm 28 now, so it's been a long time coming. But my light is so bright, and I feel like my calling is to ignite it in other people so they can ignite it in others. And then we can turn the tables, man. Like not everyone has to be depressed and anxious. We can actually be grateful and thankful instead. And so I feel like the amount of good that I can do is huge through exhibits. So I was given such a wonderful vessel with which to do it. And encouraging the masses to become more present, that's what we're really doing here, yeah.
I really love that. I think I'm going to see if I can get the right wording.
There is, if I get him on the podcast, that'll be sick too. So there's this musician that I love called Sam Henshaw. It's got this really incredible song that I recommend people to listen to. It's called Joy.
Okay, yeah.
And there's so the quote is actually, so he inputs a quote from his dad into the song.
Yeah.
His dad basically says, so he says, this really important thing, which I think, like you mentioned, there's this huge difference between being happy and being joyful.
Yeah.
And he was just like, my source of joy has not been from the things that I have, but it's from being in his presence. And it's more from a spiritual aspect of just, I guess, being grateful for he's Christian. So he was talking about as a Christian, being in God's presence.
Yeah, it's
he said being present in the moment.
Yeah.
Enjoying the here and now. Thinking about even the next bit that he says is don't you worry about what tomorrow may bring. You've got joy, sweet joy. So let's just focus on the joy we have now.
Absolutely.
Don't worry about that. And people say joy isn't about what happens to you. Joy's about like you said, that gratefulness and thankfulness that you have, that no matter whether it's a good day or a bad day, you're just I've always got something that I can be grateful for.
Yeah.
And using that as a tool to, not necessarily a tool, but using that as
I think it can be a tool. It's also not only a tool, but I think it's a practice. So I also do yoga and Pilates, for example, but before the fad, everyone, okay, just want to let you know that. And I started uni, because I had insomnia in my third year of a maths degree. I was like, what's going on? What are all these? Well, it wasn't even numbers. It was all these, what are these Greek letters? And so I wasn't sleeping one at night. My mum called up my mum. She was like, go to yoga. Stop. I don't know what you're doing. Just go to yoga. So I did. And me and my one friend, we were like, hey, should we hold ourselves accountable? We'll both go to yoga. And we come out of the yoga class, and I was like, Annabelle, all I've been thinking about is dinner. And she's like, yes, same. But I kept going, right? And eventually, at some point, I guess I started thinking about what I was going to have for dinner a little bit less, But by no means was my mind this I'm not a guru, I was me. But I kept doing it. And now, I can't really imagine my life without some form of stillness. So sometimes I get on the trains these days and everyone's listening to TikToks out loud. And I'm like, wow, this is horrible. But I think I've become more sensitive to it because I've made such a conscious effort to prioritize stillness in my life. So when I'm in nature, honestly, I could probably sit and stare at the scenery for at least 3 or 4 hours with no phone, no snacks, just chilling. Most people like me can't do that because they find it boring. But I'm like, wow, I can just, every time I look at the sea, there's every time a shadow or of a cloud passes in front of the sun, the color of the sea changes. It's better than TV. Me and my sister was thinking by the sea, this is better than any TV. And human beings, we were born onto beautiful mother, Earth, and there was no TV. But people weren't bored. There's so much to do. And when kids, you can just leave a kid in a little flower garden, they'll be like, okay, well, I've seen this snail and I've actually followed it through the garden. It's taken half an hour, but it's something fun to do. And, I want to encourage people to find the joy in little things because, otherwise, I'm not going to lie to you, life just gets really miserable really quickly. I think that's our baseline. So the bar's in hell. So it's not much to raise it, just a little bit, and you might have some fun along the way, Yeah. I don't think we were born to suffer. So, yeah.
We're going to go to the next question, which is all about you being a self-taught artist. So how has your creative journey been marked up that question. How has your creative journey influenced the way you approach coding and the design? I feel like you kind of mentioned this.
Yeah.
So if you do not skip it, we can.
No, I got stuff. I got some stuff for you.
So how your creative journey influenced the way you approach coding and the design of the exhibits?
Yes. Okay, fine. So I'll answer the first part more because I feel like I did touch it. I don't want to bore people. But I think the best example of this, I'm also more like an analogy person. I feel like, complete tangent, I'm going to come back to it. But like, I think one of the reasons coding and also maths feels really inaccessible, like, oh, you've got to be really smart to do this. Don't get me wrong. I'm an intelligent person, but that's only because I've tried. It's not, I don't have some like crazy IQ. Like I'm just a person who's like, oh, well, I don't really get it. So let me just keep doing it until I do, I guess. So that's a real blessing because, people put themselves down a lot, but also everything's poorly taught. So I think maths is one of the things that is the most poorly taught ever. And I just think it's one of the easiest things because if you got the answer wrong, it's because you haven't understood it. But if you get the answer right, it means you've got it. It's a right or wrong. I find written things much more difficult because it's subjective. So an essay, depending on who's reading it, I could have several different scores for the same thing. So maths is not like that. It's right or it's wrong until you get to uni. Anyway, so I was painting my first mural, and it was because a good friend of mine had, she was putting on an exhibition in this community space called Lex in Peckham, the Liberty Exchange. And she was like, there's a massive bare wall. And I was like, do it. Ask her if you can paint on it. And I was like, hi Rose, can I paint on this wall? Can I paint a mural? She was like, oh yeah, that'd be amazing. That's exactly what we need. And I was like, firstly, no way. Like, get in. And so, yeah, it was an indoor wall. It's a white wall. And I just went to B&Q and I picked up some indoor paint in the colors that I'd liked. And I was like, right, let's go. And I spent like 14-hour days in this like lightless basement like room. And it was such a fantastic experience for me as an artist because I didn't have a design. So I got there and I was like, okay, these are the colors. I got like oranges and blues, that kind of thing. And I just started. I remember it right now. And I just went, shmeel. Cool. We'll have to figure out the rest now. And that ended up becoming probably still my personal favorite mural of the three that I've done, even though I do love them all semi-equally. And it was called Atlantis City. And it was this like Wakanda inspired underwater city. Obviously it was black and we had like an ancestral plane and we had, but as I was painting it, there'd be patches where I was like, there's some paint on the wall right now. I can't even see it becoming anything. So I was like, do you know what? This was my like induction of fire and trusting the process. So I said, fine, you know, I'm gonna park it and I'll do something else. I'll come back. And often I do something else. And by the time I come back, I was like, okay, right, well, the shape that I have here is like a squiggle. Why not make it some kind of like snake form? That ended up the thing that looked a bit like a Pokemon in the, and I'll show it to you later. It's on my Instagram, but yeah. And, that was a really useful process for me because I was doing it in real time. But as I was doing it, I wouldn't let myself stress out about it. And I was like, do you know what? Even if I feel like I've messed up, I'm just not going to touch it. I'm going to genuinely walk away and do something else before I come back and even tackle this again. Because my sister is now also learning to code. She's doing like back-end development. And I'll see it in her. And because I've already done it myself and I've already gone through the journey of like learning to code is tough not because it's technically challenging, but because it requires a strong person to do it. Because when you come across something that doesn't work, most of the time it's because you don't know why it doesn't work. Because if you knew it, it would be working, right? So you've got to troubleshoot yourself, essentially. And that can be really challenging, especially once you've read like the 10th article on why this should work and it doesn't. AI has changed the game in that you kind of have a tutor, but my developer days were born of trawling through Stack Overflow. And you just have to try and find a question that someone's asked that is in any way similar to the specific thing that you're going through. But often it isn't exactly the same. And so yours doesn't work. And yeah, it's hard, you know, because you feel like you're bashing your head and it makes you feel really stressed in your body. Now that I meditate, I know when I'm feeling stressed. I'm like, oh, something's twitching over here. Normally it's in like my heart area. And I'm like, it feels like someone's put like an anvil on my chest, but it's invisible, you know? And I'm watching my sister go through it. And so I tell her some things that she can do to help herself, which is to take a break, go on a walk, do something different, come back. And she won't. Right? She's like, no, I can get it. And I'm like, okay, fine. And then eventually she'll get it. It's normally after she's gone for a walk, like 2 or 3 days later. And then she'll come back and she'll be like, I'll say to her, yeah, this is why I suggested that you, and she was like, I should have done that. Yeah. So do you take the break? Yeah. Take the break so that you can finish whatever you're working on faster. Again, it feels counterintuitive. If I'm not on my laptop, I'm not going to get it done. Often that's where inspiration will come. So, if I'm honest, I can't remember the question that you asked me, Jeffrey. I'm so sorry. But yeah, that's how I code. Yeah, I go and do something else. Yes, fine. Yes, I knew I wasn't chatting out my house. Yeah, and then I come back and I take a break and I trust the process and I know I'm going to get it done and then I do. Easy. Yeah.
I think, like you said, like it's really important that it's I emphasize that like taking a break because I'm gonna bring it back to gaming.
Yeah, man.
I'm a gamer.
Yeah.
But it's the same with gaming. So like, my brother does the same thing. Sometimes maybe I'm playing the game, fighting the boss keeps beating me.
Yeah.
It's like, it's working.
Yeah, you're back. Yeah.
And he's just like, you know what? Sometimes the hours will stack up and you're just like, I've been at this for like an hour, maybe 2 hours.
Yeah.
Like, I'm getting annoyed at this.
Yeah.
And he's like, you know what? Maybe you should just pause it there. Stop gaming today. Maybe it's just, you're just tired.
Yeah.
Take a break. Come back tomorrow.
Yeah.
Maybe even take the next day off. Then come back to the game.
Exactly.
Come back 2 days down.
But when you're telling someone who's in it, they're like, no, can't do that. You're like, now, yeah.
But it's like you said, like when you like knowing, I guess it links to what we're saying about rest, like knowing you can like pause and take breaks and stuff is really important. Yeah. Then you're just like, actually, like my mind's clear.
Yeah.
I can see things differently now. And I think also people forget like that's not just like it's not necessarily, I wouldn't say like then it was considered a concept, but like for example, like I think it was Einstein. I think because this is from Big Bang Theory, so I might be wrong. But like Einstein did the same thing of like he was trying to solve a problem and then just worked on a post office for a few months because he was just like, I can't figure it out.
Yeah.
I'm going to do something super. And they say like doing like basic tasks that you know what to do can just help you to like figure out a problem.
Yeah.
Be like, cool, you know, whether it's like, I don't know, like you said, like I'm going to go for a walk. Maybe I'm going to like pay attention to the sounds that I hear, or the smells and the like stuff that I'm seeing.
Yeah.
Whether it's simply just like, you know what, actually, I'm going to just like, I don't know, like for me personally, that's why I love cleaning. Because cleaning just like feels very therapeutic. Doing stuff. I can see the progress and like changes. And then for me, that's why like, even like on a personal level, like it's super random, but like, that's why I love like, I also know I can't grow a beard. So people, if you're wondering where this beard's go, it's not coming. But like for me, that is. But I'm just like, I like it because it just sometimes feels to me like a reset.
Yeah.
And sometimes I might feel like you said, like, it's just like tension, the stress.
Yeah.
I'm just like, nah, just like doing the task. I'm just like, it requires like, not shape. Well, let me not come to hairdressers, but like, it's almost like patience and like that attentiveness. And I think that's why like, we'll go back to the last question, but like my final thing to say is, I think that's why I loved, so my sister decided to do a her birthday's in July. She decided to do in October a 3 like different event things. So she had like a brunch. I think she did like a nail thing with some of her friends.
Is this for her birthday?
Yeah.
Love that. You know it's my birthday today? Yeah. But it's not. It's like it's my birthday. Yeah. It puts in my family all the time. They're like, I'm like, I'll have dinner. And I'm like, can I have seconds? Because it's my birthday. My mom's like, woman, your birthday's in July. And I'm like, Mom, it's my birthday today. Because I live every day like it's my birthday. Why should I only treat myself? 1st of July. Because I'm number 1.
My sister's is the 3rd, mine's the 4th. Yeah.
What? Oh my God. Happy birthday. For today. Yeah, cool. Sorry. Yeah. So she did all this stuff.
Yeah, and she decided to do the sip and paint, the last thing.
Nice, yeah.
And like, I haven't painted since secondary school. And I was like, I don't know what's going to be like. I don't know if it's going to be like, everyone's going to be like, oh, you know, you're not matching the picture that everyone's trying to draw.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know, it was just like doing it. I was just like, nice. It wasn't like, it was alcohol. Like, we got one glass, right? It was nice. I didn't get anything else.
Yeah.
But it was just like, something about just like painting on a canvas. So I was like, this is like taking me back. And I was just like,
big fan.
I'm not gonna lie, it was fast. This guy was like, we haven't got an hour, so we're gonna start. So everything was moving, but it was funny because like my sister's friend, she was like, so we were supposed to, I have the picture up here of the painting, I'll show you afterwards. But like, we're supposed to replicate this, like, it's the, you know, the Japanese tidal wave one?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we're trying to do that. I was like, trying to pay attention. My sister's friend was like, nah. Like, she was doing the like background, making it like look like very sunsetty.
Yeah.
And then by the time my dad moved off, she was just like, I don't even know where we're at.
Yeah.
So she was like, you know, I'm just going to paint like my own thing.
Yeah.
And it was just, I think that's what I liked about it. It was just like very much just like, it's relaxing, it's therapeutic, it's not stressful. And it's almost like that attentiveness and care that like comes from just like almost paying attention to the detail. Because even like afterwards, like my sister was like very like, I wouldn't say I'm not, like, I can't paint. I can paint, but I wouldn't say it was like, I'm an amazing painter. But my sister was just like, oh, this is like really good. Like, I didn't know you could paint this well. I was like, yeah, like, at least I love painting at school.
Yeah.
But it's like we said, like, it's just like something that's like takes your mind off of stuff.
Yeah, all the other stuff. It's like a monkey in your brain. You know the one with in The Simpsons with the the monkey with the symbols. And I think Eckhart Tolle, I don't know how to really pronounce his name, but just, yeah, I'm not gonna lie to you, I love this guy, you know, this German middle-aged guy, and he's just so calm, but I feel like he's figured it out. So he's kind of like a modern day guru for me. But he talks a lot about the mind, and he says that the mind is a tool, right? And it's like, if I'm honest, so is a knife, right? A knife is a tool. You use it to make dinner. You can also use it to kill people, you know? So what you do with the tool is really important. But the main thing that you know it's a tool is because you can like put it down and like walk away from it. Can you ever, if you tell your mind to shush, will it listen? If not, the mind is using you, right? Because we can't really get rid of it. And so, yeah, one of the things he suggests is to be a watcher of the mind. Observer of the mind. And so one way that you can do that, for example, is you can say like, I wonder what thought is going to come into my head next. All of a sudden, it's like you open up this fourth wall in your brain and your mind is like, oh, snap. Like, I wonder what it's going to be. And often, the first one that comes in, you might not even realize it's a thought, but you're like, hold on a minute. You just walked in here. This door is shut, my friend. And yeah, but when you're painting or like if you're like sewing, so I also like was knitting my sister a jumper or a sweater. And I'm not super good at knitting, if I'm honest. So most of my time was spent unraveling what I did and putting it all back on the needle. I actually got through 6 audiobooks of June in that time. So yeah, now thoroughly obsessed. But I was not thinking about anything other than like what I was listening to at that time, or if people are doing, and if you think about the hobbies or the tasks that people are doing when they're like that, painting is such like an old school thing. You know, you can actually just sit and have some paints and not even listen to music and just still have a good time, you know? Whereas, I don't know, I feel like I watched, what was one of the Trolls movies? Oh my God, me and my friend were in bed at New Year's, like last year, and we watched one of the Trolls films, and it's like sensory overload. Like, it's like, even the speed at which they're speaking is faster because our attention spans are so short now, especially children, because they are growing up on, you know, technology. It's just like fizz bang wallop, like at every 0.5 seconds. And it was just, we came away and we were like, are we old now? I have a headache. I need to stare at a wall or something. That was I didn't even enjoy that. That was horrible. So yeah, doing things that like actively feel like the opposite. And again, like cleaning is such a good one. I have a tip that I'd like to share, which is based on the back of what you said about cleaning, actually, which is it's really nice to do things that you're good at. You know, we need small wins in life. And I have a friend now who's building an app, and he's got some challenging things to do, which includes like building out his own like library because nothing seems to do what he wants. And he's like, right, well, I'm gonna have to make it myself. That's a big task. It's a big milestone to like accomplish. And he's the only person motivating himself. Again, like me, he's like a one-man team. And I was speaking to him and he was like, kind of like, you know, like, what do you do? Like, you need to give yourself some small wins, man. Like, you know, if you really like designing stuff, maybe think about what your designs could look like in the future. It doesn't even need to be specifically related to what you're doing right now, but you need something that is going to make you feel good. So even if it's like go and do the dishes, tidy up your room, you know, I love tidying up my room. I try and keep it neat, but obviously I'm going to mess it up at some point. But then as an activity, I'll just give myself like an hour to just deep clean my room. Okay, I don't really deep clean, but I put everything away, you know, and I hoover. And at the end, I just sit in my room. I just go, that's good. And then I feel so much better than I did before because I'm good at cleaning. Why not? It's an easy thing to do. I don't have to really use my brain. But sometimes I try and do it not listening to anything. So I'm mindful. Or I put something like really chill in the background. But yeah, not even like a podcast and stuff. I'm like, this is my time. This is self-care. And I tend to do much better afterwards. So yeah, I think the main thing that we keep circling back to is like, take the time to rest. Like, take the time to do like what feels good for you. Because if you accumulate a bunch of small wins, you've got enough confidence in the tank to tackle something big. So if you try and tackle the big thing first and you don't succeed, chances are it's going to batter you, and then you won't even have anything left. You will have no energy, no vim, no spirit left to try the small things. So for anyone listening here, please try that. Yeah, because you owe it to yourself to do your best work. Because if you don't do it, it probably won't get done. So this is one way in which it's a marathon, not a sprint. So you got to pace yourself. Yeah, man.
100%.
Yeah.
We'll come to the final question. And I should say, if you've got any questions you want to ask me, or what. But the final question I've got for you is, what advice? I mean, I've done this one as well.
Okay, right.
You know,
Yeah.
what advice would you give to aspiring entrepreneurs who want to merge technical and creative skills to bring their visions to life, but especially if they're sort of starting from scratch?
Yeah. Do it. Do it, man. Like, everything we use is in some way creative, because even if it's considered technical, like a website, maybe building a website from scratch seems like a technical thing. What it looks like is important. You know, someone had to do that at some point. And you can always tell when people haven't done it. Right. So, maybe get a bunch of stuff that you like, a few, if it's like, even if it's like influencers that you like their content, or it's podcasts that you like, and really sit down and try and objectively think, okay, what is it that I really like about this thing? What is it? And then you can try and emulate it, because that's why it's good to have role models, right? But if there is no role model doing exactly what you want, be your own role model. Before I started my maths degree, I distinctly remember Googling mathematicians who are also artists, and nothing really came up apart from one woman who was doing really interesting work, doing like crochet for like hyperbolic space. So it was like anemones under the sea, because they're so freely. And that's really difficult mathematically to like work out, but nature just does it anyway. And I was like, I don't crochet. This is not really, wasn't really what I was looking for, you know? And I wasn't necessarily looking for like maths art. All my stuff is mostly like portraiture, or, you know, designs, or like the tattoos are all my own. So I was like, well, I'm just going to do them anyway. And now, hopefully, I can be an example of people who are technical and creative, you know? But like, I didn't see that, so I decided to be it, you know? So the first thing I would definitely say is, don't get put off by anything technical, because even people who do tech, they had to start somewhere. Right? Like, I'm at the moment really getting into watercolor, and I say really getting into it. I've got like a really cheap like watercolor palette I got from Lidl, you know, like the middle of Lidl section. Yeah. Crazy bargains in there, guys. And yeah, they're not super high quality or anything, but I was like, before I go and splurge like, you know, however many pounds on really high quality equipment that I might then never use again, let me make do with what I've got right now. Let me do my best with what I have now. And I'll see where that takes me, because in time, I might actually feel like, oh no, gouache. Yeah, I really want to try this thing. Don't even know if I pronounce it correctly, but you know, so yeah, really give it a go. But also, if you're a creative person and you want to do something technical specifically, there are so many freelance people online who can like build the things that you want. So it's in your best interest to get very clear on what that is. So Fiverr, for example, we've used Fiverr, and Upwork is another one. We actually just hired someone yesterday to do a project for us. So yeah, other people can bring your technical vision to life if you feel like you lack the skills, but it's still going to need a little bit of spirit. It's going to need a bit of direction. It's going to need a bit of vim and energy from you. So yeah, don't limit yourself because you don't lack the skills, or you can learn to do it yourself. It might take you like 6 years or 4, but you can do it. Why not? If I can do it, anyone can, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, well, now, if you've got any questions, you're more than welcome to ask me.
Yeah. What else? What brings you joy? Yeah. And I think a way to like, it doesn't have to be like task based, but what is something that really lights you up on the inside? At the moment. Because that's a very wide question. Today. If someone was like, yeah, right now. Right here, right now, Jeffrey. Yeah, no, like if someone was like, okay, wow, I am going to give you this one thing today, though, in like the afternoon, what would it be?
I'd say like What brings me joy is like seeing.
Today.
Today.
I'm about what brings you joy normally, man. What would bring you joy today?
What would bring me joy today?
Yeah.
It's just like, I guess like seeing other people thrive.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, like I think especially like when I see like, so I guess it's like similar to like people that been on the podcast know, I like flood people's inboxes with introductions. And I feel like for me, it's just like, it's like seeing like those connections like grow and develop, because I've seen people like be like, oh, Jeffrey, I'm looking to X. And I'm just like, oh, actually, like, I know this incredible person, like, you should chat to them. Or people just like, oh, I want to do a workshop, but I don't want to do it with a big crowd and I want to do it like low key. And I'm just like, actually, no, a space that's looking for workshops.
Yeah, that's why.
Hit them up, see what they say. So I think it would have to be that. It's just like seeing like people interact in spaces. And I think, I will have a date at some point soon. But when we do our 4-year celebration, like that's like one of the, like when we did the 3 one, that was what I loved, because it was like, I'm seeing people that I met through uni, seeing people that listen to the podcast, I'm seeing people I've met like as a part of my like part-time job, and I'm seeing all of these groups like connect. And some of them, yes, I might have like facilitated that introduction, but like some of them, like people were talking and I was like, these guys are acting like they knew each other.
Yeah.
They're just like talking about ages. And I was like, wow.
Human beings are so beautiful. You are the glue, though, I feel like, that keeps everyone together. It's because of people like you, so thank you for what you do. Because he also flooded my inbox with a bunch of, I literally looked at him and was like, I have to reply to every single one of these people. It took me like probably 2 or 3 weeks. But now there are some beautiful things that are hopefully going to come through for that. So yeah, man, just thanks for what you do, firstly. Also, thanks for having me on. It's been super, super duper fun. But I also want to answer my own question, which is one thing that would really bring me joy today, if I could magically be transported to our house in Turkey and make mantı with my grandma and the rest of everyone in our family, because I'm just really craving it right now. And there's just something about when you spend the whole day just making food and then all you do is eat the food. Yeah, so anyway, that will bring me joy. It's always very deep, you know? Sometimes you just want that one dish, like, yeah.
It's the same. Like I think it's the first time I'm talking about on the podcast, but we have like a family tradition. So every Christmas, we don't have like typical like British Christmas.
Yeah.
It's like, we pick a country's cuisine, or like an area of the world. It's always fun.
So what was this one's? Just Christmas?
This Christmas, it was Indian. Don't ask me what they cooked.
Yeah. Okay.
But like my sisters and my mum always cook for Christmas.
Yeah.
They cook the cuisine. Like they pick the cuisine, they cook it. My dad, my brother, and I, we always cook Nigerian food for years.
Nice. I love that.
So my mum and my sisters cooked like Indian food this year. I think 3 years ago now. My older sister and I, we did, I think it was like a Pan-Asian one.
Yeah.
We've done Brazilian. We haven't exhausted the nations and areas of the world. So like, I think that was one Christmas where we were just like, yeah, you know what? Let's just have like a British one. Like, we haven't had it for a while. And we were just like,
bring it back home. Just once.
Yeah.
We did something similar this year, actually. We didn't have a roast because we couldn't be bothered. We were like, there's so much pressure to have a good time at Christmas, and like we're not Christians, so we're like, well, the religious aspect of it is, you know, kind of, I would say lost to us, but just, you know, we're not opting in for that thing. So it's just like, why don't we? What do we have for Christmas this year? Last year we made a pie.
Nice.
I don't know what we did this year, but I was so determined. I was like, I just want to be on a beach in Thailand eating like some noodles. Wow, it's going to really bug me that I can't remember. I'll remember. I'll just tell you afterwards. But yeah, here's the non-conventional things. If you want to, also if you like tradition, do your thing. You know, yeah. That's so funny. Wow. I'm still not over the fact that your sister just had like a birthday celebrations like 3 months in. I feel so seen. Wow.
She's done it to you.
Yeah, as she should. Long may she continue. Thank you.
Because we usually we like on and off. We're gonna do something because our birthdays are so like 3 of like my dad is also born in July. So
yeah, okay. When is it last birthday?
15th.
Okay, cool. A little bit of time, but yeah.
So me and my sister always do like some. Well, we and off. We're gonna do a joint thing. Yeah. Like we're gonna do it separately. But yeah, she was just like, yeah, do you want to do a joint thing? I was like, yeah, sure. And then she was like, yeah, so I'm doing like this 3 event thing. Not last year, the year before, she did a brunch again. I think she did another like nail salon thing with parents, and then we rented out like this apartment, and she did a birthday party there.
Great like house parties.
I'll say it. If there's anything you guys can say, obviously like all the other stuff is super important, but anything I've always said, I'm a house party of a club any day of the week.
Are you joking? I don't go clubbing anymore.
I'm just like,
I turn up. Like, me standing in the corner, I'm not talking to myself in the corner, and I'm like, yeah, girl, do your thing. Like, I literally party in nature if I you know, wanted to. But bring back house party, but no one's got a house.
That's what it is.
Because everyone's living at home. Oh, man. Yeah.
I think someone I know went to the, you know, because Stormzy's got his like...
Oh, yeah, exactly.
It's like, the concept is cool, but it's also like not cheap. And it's
fine.
Because it's also not your home. You're still treating it like a club.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, there might be a cloakroom. Yeah. But I still like to keep my stuff near me.
Yeah.
So it's almost like, yeah, damn, man. Like,
yeah. Bring them back.
Bring them back.
Okay, well, if you have a party, let me know.
Of course.
Same, likewise. I think actually we're moving house soon, so
okay.
I'm going to try and convince my parents to have like one last party. Okay. So basically, I have, I think, what was almost like the oldest cat in the world, because my cat was 29 when she passed away and I'm 28. So I still haven't outlived our family cat. Her name was Millie. She was a big G, but she lived in the living room.
Okay.
And because she was so old, like, my gosh, that was her space.
Okay.
And she eventually passed and we were like, let's have a party. Because you couldn't even have like people around in the living room because she was just this screaming ball of fur. And so we threw my dad a surprise 60th party for the first time ever. And it was totally worth it. But after that, we were like, Mum, we can do this. But it's been over a year and we haven't had one. So we have to have at least one last hurrah type party. So yeah, your sister should come. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Any other questions before we wrap up?
Yeah. What advice do you have for unblocking yourself if you're in a creative rut? That's different from having like a technical issue. Do you know what I mean? You have to like sometimes persevere with that a little bit, but for a creative thing, yeah.
I'd say like get.
Or do you have an example of one that you have done?
There's been ones for like with pickup and like, so when we started and like when I was thinking, we originally just had one podcast and then we were just like, okay, cool. So we're going to add all these additional segments, call it just additional content that we're producing. And then 2 years ago, I was like, oh, well, you know, all this additional stuff, it still gets the same treatment as our main podcast. I was also just like, some of the stuff we were doing for our main podcast, like our flagship podcast, I should say, I was just like, sometimes waiting on speakers to like get back with comments, read over stuff, all of this stuff. So I was just like, it doesn't make sense to like wait so long. Cause there would be something like, I think there was one time where, and this is why like for any podcast I've done since, like, unless the first and last episode of a season, I will say like, welcome to the first, welcome to the last. Before I was like, welcome to the 6th, 7th, whatever. And it got to the point where like we were recording like episodes and one speaker like just went AWOL for a bit. And I was like, I can't release, like, I don't want to release this episode and then go back, because then content-wise, it won't make sense. Because people will be like, well, you're saying it's the 7th episode, why? And I was just like,
what happened to that one in the middle or like whatever, And
I was just like, I cannot afford to wait for this. So I was just like, that's why we were like doing all this other stuff. So I think for me, it was just like, one thing I would say is, one thing that helped was, like you said, like just putting it down and just like really taking time away from it, stepping away from it, thinking about like other stuff. I think talking about it with people, I think like you said, like I got like a friend, he did pick up he was a part of the group of friends that when we started to pick up the mic was involved.
Yeah.
And now because of his timing, he's not involved as much, but like we still meet up, we still talk. And like we only met through like a job we both had at uni, but like we've kept in touch like ever since. Mm-hmm. And he's like my go-to guy. So like I was telling him like, bro, I've got all these ideas. What do you think? He was like, well, I think like, you know, why don't you expand it out? Like you've got a lot of stuff that you're doing. You've got a lot of stuff that like it gets the same quality that it does. And my brother and my family said the same thing. And I was like, yeah. He was like, why don't you just like add it? Like just call it a podcast. Like just say you've got like additional podcasts. And I was like, how does that work? Because like, I don't know if you can just call yourself a podcast network. You have to register with someone to be a podcast network. And he was like, just look into it. Even arguably, like, for the longest time, I don't have it on today, unfortunately. But like, we wanted to make merch. And I was just like, like, I don't even know what to do. And like, a friend that Shout out Samuel. But like he was just like, so like when we met funny off at Roundhouse Works on the weekend, and we were just like, so literally we just like, we went to Camden Market, bought food there, and then we were just sitting in Roundhouse Works and we were just like working on stuff, and we were just like, oh, well, why don't you think about like, let's like look on ChatGPT or do like a comparison, like think about like the t-shirts you want, prices and all of this. And like that was really good because it was like really useful because he was just like, just try it. Like you get your own t-shirt. Because I made like one for myself. Yeah. It's like, I'll just wear it for events, so at least I'm promoting the brand. Yeah. And he was just like, just see like how it could work and stuff and all of that. So I would say like talk to people, write it out. Yeah. I do definitely agree that it's something that is very important about like putting pen to paper. Yeah. More so than like, and like even like I have friends that told me, oh, you know, if you want to do a to-do list, like you can do it on Notion, you can do it on Google Note or do Google Tasks, all this stuff. And like, I saw Notion, I was like, it's really cool, but I'm not gonna lie, we have a Notion page, but I'm like, I haven't touched it because that thing overwhelmed me. Like, it's like all these pages, all these tabs.
You can do so much and therefore I do nothing.
I'm just like, nah, it's like,
I don't use Notion.
I was like, you know what?
But it looks good.
It's really cool. I was like, you know, my lit pad with my traditional students.
I literally have just pen and paper, and I call them, I only ever refer to my to-dos as happy to-dos. I've hyphenated it because I found myself, once the app was out, for like 2 weeks, I was like, oh my God. And I was like, now that we're out, we're going to move so much faster than we ever have done because we're now out. Do you know what I mean? Like if I wanted to take like even a week off from the coding, no one's going to ever tell me like, no, you can't do that. But now that we're out, it's like, you have to keep this momentum going. And it's like that taking that 24 hours off. And it's like, well, you know, I don't. Okay. So I have two actually very small things to say on the back of that, which is firstly, chat to people who have almost nothing to do with your project. It's very, very useful. I would talk to my parents about databases. What? They don't care. Like, not that they don't care, but they have no technical background. They can't offer me any solutions. And they're like, what is the problem? And I'm like, well, and it makes you distill into the very simplest of what it is that you're dealing with. And if you can't do that, you need to amend your language so that you can get through to these people, basically. That's a really big skill, because if you can do that, you will unlock feedback and advice, which you have just maybe not been hearing because people don't understand the problem that you're doing. So that's great. The second thing is, when it comes to feedback is not, oh my God, feedback is so horrible to receive sometimes, but I love feedback. I'm going to say it again, I love feedback. I'm also really good at getting negative feedback. That's the thing that everyone's always like really, you know, iffy about. I'm very free with the feedback that I give, because giving negative feedback doesn't mean you're being rude, but often we perceive it as that because the ego is the whole thing, right? So for example, my sister was like, yeah, in time, you know, we might have to do a brand redesign. And I was like, I was sitting there and I was like, oh God, because I was like, what that means for me is like, what's wrong with designs? I spent so long on these designs, you know, like we got someone in to help us with this. Like, why do you feel like you need it to be redesigned? I said to her, you know what? I can feel myself flaring up, which means that's my ego. Recognize it for what it is. Fine. Doesn't mean that feeling is going to go away immediately, but then I articulated to her and I was like, I'm not offended. I will start with that. If I'm offended, I start with, I'm not offended. But my concern is that you think we might need one. So do you think there's an issue with the designs now? Because if so, we should probably chat about that. Like, I'd love to hear why. But on the flip side of that, if we need to make changes to the designs to make it better for users to use our platform, I accept that. It doesn't feel good to me, and it kind of feels like I've wasted all this time, but it's not about me. It's now about, it's bigger than just me. So, yeah, and you don't have to brush over the fact that it hurts sometimes. But if you really are truly for whatever it is that you're building, and again, I think if you're an entrepreneur, you are. If someone was like, yeah, sometimes I don't understand what you're saying because it's too fast. And you're like, oh, fine. So that, I wonder how many people that's been affecting, right? Or something like that, which is, again, I'm sure that's not the feedback that you're getting, but maybe then you can be like, okay, well, maybe let's add some captions, or maybe let's offer the speed to be reduced. Or when I'm asking a question, maybe I know internally that I can, from now on, I'm going to slow down a little bit, or, you know, and the overall effect is that it's so much better for everyone who is going to use your platform or listen to your, so the end result is super positive, but it's not always going to feel good getting there. And, but also be kind in the way that you give feedback.
Because whatever you're feeling, people will also feel. People bristle up quite a lot. And don't take it personally if they do get angry at you with feedback. Yeah. But I'm also very, very liberal with the positive feedback that I give. Like every time someone says that our Instagram looks good, I go home and tell my sister, because she actually was an aerospace engineer. So she didn't do design, but she's taken to it like a fish in water because exhibits needed it. And now she just absolutely kills it every time. And every time someone tells you, I go back and I'm like, someone else told me that they thought our page was cool. And she's like, yay. But at the same time, there was a little bit of like, I'll call it creative tension between us, because she was coming up with ideas from looking at other people's stuff. For example, buttons with like extra shadow around them, or like they look a bit like a bubble. That's very not Swiss, for example. So I was like, yeah, thanks so much for the time you spent on it. My feedback is that I don't really think it's as Swiss as I think we could be. She was like, I didn't like the way you gave me that feedback. I was like, I didn't want to have to give it to you, but it wasn't Swiss. And we laugh about it now because we were off with each other for like an hour, and then she was like, fine, I'll redo it. But again, for someone who hasn't had to rebuild the back end 7 times, having to go back and do something that you spent a lot of time on, that was one of the first times she's had to do it. And I was like, I get it, but I can't be in your shoes and make you not take offense to it, because I got there from having to, do this thing like many, many times. So, or imagine like you edited a whole podcast and then the file gets deleted. I had to do it all over again. Well, you got to do it. Like, you'd probably be, really missed by it, maybe really hurt, really sad. But this is where I think this is what separates us from other people, is that, even if it's really long and really hard, after a short break, I'm going to try and do it again. And that's why we get to live the life that we want in 5 years time. Definitely. Maybe even less. Yeah. So those are the 2 things, because I feel like people don't really talk about it enough. And it's a very, very, very big part of getting your idea to fruition, is you have to use other people, and often they're not you. So they're going to do work that you're kind of like, oh, but now that's not up to scratch. But you have to then coach them to doing stuff in the way that you. And once they get there, stick it like clockwork. I don't even have to okay any of the socials, because I know she knows exactly what it is that we stand for and the quality of the work that we're going to put out, and it runs itself now. By her. So thanks to that. Anyway, I'm done.
We're going to wrap things up there. Thank you very much, Ilayda, for being an amazing guest and for sharing more about the app, your journey, being a co-founder, being a multi-hyphenate. We like to wrap up with a few things. So first off, how can people connect with you, find out a bit more about you and the app? And secondly, if you've got anything big, if you've got another community trip coming up, how can people find out, or how can they connect? This is your choice.
Thank you. Firstly, hi everyone. Again, please do download the app. You can, hopefully you will have seen the little I'm a cat, so we've come really far. But it's just exhibits in the app stores. We're on both iOS and Android. I have an Android, but everyone uses iOS, so do your thing. It's a free app. Share it with your friends. Let people know. Take your parents to exhibitions. Go and visit one in real life. It would be super duper cool. Just for me personally, if you do go to something nice that you found on the app, please do let us know. Our Instagram is @exhibits_app. And stay in touch. We put all our information about our community trips that we're running on there. We do have some in the works as we scale and as we grow. We're hoping to run at least 2 a month is our target. We're not quite there yet. It takes a lot of effort and a lot of time to write these emails with these venues. But so hopefully we'll be running a trip that is in any way, shape or form aligned with your interests. So you can come and say hi in person and be friends. Yeah.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Like I said, amazing conversation, amazing app. Look forward to what you do in the future. Fingers crossed. I think you enjoyed today.
The smile has been planted on my face. The moment I said to the text again, Jeffrey, and you know it.
All right. Well, we're bringing you back. We're looking forward to seeing what's happened 6 months to a year afterwards. Thank you to your wonderful audience for coming back for another episode. If you like this episode, like, comment, subscribe is always appreciated. Make sure you click the notification bell at the bottom of the video so you do not miss other episodes of Hustle Chronicles or any other content on the YouTube channel. If you want to support Pick Up the Mic, if you want to receive some merch, we will be doing more events this year. So if you also want to get a juice ticket on those, make sure you join either our Patreon page or our YouTube channel membership, which is linked down below. And finally, if you want to learn about our other channels, our sci-fi and animation, two different things. Our sci-fi and fantasy channel, our anime channel, and also our gaming channel. You can find that on the just under the For You on our Pick Up the Mic homepage. I will also be including a video now. Hopefully this is the first video. This is the first episode, not the second. I'll include it, you can see where it is. And yeah, just click subscribe to all three of those to be notified, and the notification bell to be notified when other content comes out to the channel. But yeah, I'm going to wrap up this chapter with the student guide. It's been great having you guys with us, and we'll see you next time with another business, another entrepreneur, and another amazing conversation. Yeah, that's a bye from us here. Have a wonderful day.